Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. So we've got a couple of days of generally warmer and dry conditions with temperatures could get as high as 27 or 28 degrees quite widely tomorrow and maybe in the east through Friday as well. However, through Thursday evening in the west and through Friday evening further eastwards and for much of the weekend, we're going to see the westerly flow trying to return, getting mixed up with that warm air, and there is the risk for some heavy showers and some thunderstorms in places as well, especially in those western regions. As we look at the longer range though, it is looking generally on the up. As we have been exploring over the last few videos, there is a good chance that we do see something a little bit warmer and a little bit drier as we do progress through. The pressure patterns still aren't certain though, but the overall flow is looking more encouraging for southerly winds and perhaps even quite hot air getting moved in. And that would give some much better conditions into the second half of August. The GFS run today, again getting the 15 to 20 degree isotherm in that sort of region. Again, that would equate to temperatures into the low 30s if it did come off. There still is a lot of uncertainty, but the only positive we can take from it is looking generally on the up. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So to start on the live radar, you can see it is much drier and it's a lot warmer today. A few patchy areas of cloud and showers around, but really nothing too much. A few bits and bobs of rain off the east of Scotland and perhaps across the border areas of Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, but everywhere else is pretty much dry. Not something we've seen in quite a while. As of 3 p.m, look at that, darker oranges appearing, something we haven't seen for a number of weeks, as the temperatures are into the low to maybe even as high as mid-20s today. Best conditions across southern parts of the Republic of Ireland, up towards central and southern England, even into the northwest. Those temperatures are looking really quite nice. Not quite as warm in Scotland, still pretty nice, but not quite as warm as that hotter air mass hasn't quite reached those northern regions yet. And you see where the air is coming from Spain and parts of southern France now into the mid to high 30s, if not touching 40 degrees. We're not going to be seeing those sort of temperatures, but it's that air mass, or the remnants of that air mass, is shooting our way. Now, if we go over to net weather now, you can see the max temperatures today so far around the 2 or 3 p.m. point. Most likely won't eclipse this for the 4 p.m. observations. And you can see widely 23 to 25 degrees across the top 20 weather stations that net weather have access to. So yeah, very warm day. And yeah, up and down the country, we're seeing some really pleasant conditions with those top temperatures as well. If you go over to the UKV now, where we look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, you can see generally dry conditions through the rest of today. As we do progress into tomorrow, another very warm and generally dry day, but the first hints of a few heavy thundery showers appearing in the west, really only impacting the far south and west of the Republic of Ireland, and maybe some of the cloud getting into the southwest of England. Those showers could continue through Thursday evening, pushing eastwards and giving some thundery weather, especially in Scotland, elsewhere sort of fizzling away. Into Friday, we're in a bit of a break, and again another warm and dry day could be observed further southwards and eastwards, further northwards and westwards, more of those heavy thundery showers pushing in. Beyond that, as we head into Saturday, more heavy showers for more widespread regions, and you can see it's Saturday, nowhere really is in a dry sector. Could be some dry weather around, but risk of widespread scattered thunderstorms here, those darker reds appearing in some of these heavier showers. And that continues into Sunday as well, where it's going to be another smattering of thunderstorms around, but more likely in the north here. And we can see some more persistent rain into the west there as we head into Monday. One thing you'll see from all this precipitation looks really quite heavy at times. Doesn't look too widespread, but looks really heavy. It's because we've got hot, humid air mixing in with it, and that just enhances the precipitation rates. You can see that from the dew points. The dew points are rising rapidly through this afternoon, so even with these warm temperatures, it's going to feel even more sticky over the coming hours. Dew points this afternoon and evening into the mid to high teens in the southwest, spreading further northwards, and by tomorrow many areas in the mid to high teens. It's going to feel really sticky through tomorrow. So if you have got any outdoor plans, yes, the temperatures don't look anything out of the ordinary. 26, 27 degrees in the summer isn't that out of the ordinary. But it's these dew points going to make it feel really quite oppressive, and that make that feel like temperature even higher. The dew points will continue all the way through Friday, potentially even lingering into the weekend as well. And that's just, it shows you the warmer, humid air is just about holding on, which will mean any breaks of the showers and storms, we could still see temperatures into the low 20s, but it will mean that because the humidity is higher, there's more water vapour, more energy available to those showers and storms. You see that from the upper air temperatures really climbing through this afternoon and evening, up towards the mid-teens at 850 HPA, really consolidating through tomorrow, and then eventually getting swept away overnight into Friday, but could just about hang on in eastern areas, and that's why we could still see a mid-20s there, before finally getting swept away in most regions through the weekend. If you look at the max temperatures, you can see today widely around the 22 to 24 degree mark. So in reality, we are about a degree or two higher than the UKV is making out to be today. So we can probably equate that into tomorrow maybe being a degree or two higher as well. If you look into Thursday afternoon temperatures, widely here 25 to 27. So I don't think it's I don't think it's impossible if we did see maybe a 28 or even isolated 29. But I do think it's highly unlikely we reach 30 degrees. But yeah, 27 looking like the widespread high, could be even higher in a few localised areas. Into Friday, widely from the west, it will begin cooler, but further eastwards could still see a 25 or 26 degrees as that humid air hangs on to another sticky day through Friday, finally into Saturday, starting to cool down, but still could see a 23 to 25 in East Anglia in the southeast, and into Sunday. It looks like widely things will be cooler, but still 22 or 23 in the east. So it does look likely to be a number of consecutive, pretty warm, humid days coming up. Best conditions are going to be widely tomorrow. In the east, maybe still on Friday. And through the weekend, will be on and off depending on shower activity. But the south and east might actually be really quite pleasant. And this could be setting a precedent for the rest of August as things do look generally on the up. Now, if you do head over to the GFS, we'll have to see what that is showing over the course of the next couple of weeks. Again, you can see the high pressure is building in, and we're seeing that southerly wind. Low pressure does push through in the weekend, but just about holds on to that warm, humid air through Saturday and Sunday before eventually cooler air does move in. Into next week, kind of in between weather systems, and you can see generally we're not under higher pressure, we're not really under lower pressure, kind of in between, and that will mean that the air will be fairly warm, but not anything spectacular. The air mass will be fairly moderate. There'll be light winds, which will allow those temperatures to rise. Again, could see more consecutive days of low to mid-20s. Things start going again towards the end of next week, and this is where the risk of some really hot air starting to appear from the southeast. We do see a low pressure slide in towards the Bay of Biscay, and it draws up a south to southeasterly wind. Here, the GFS brings that low pressure more over the top of us, and essentially it gives us hotter air for a day or two for sweeping in low pressure and thunderstorms. But if this came off slightly differently, that hot air could properly establish itself. We could see seeing wildly warmer and drier conditions with this high pressure system building up towards Scandinavia, Iceland and Scotland, Denmark, these sort of regions here, with that high pressure being much larger and having much more of an influence. Now, if we do look at the GEM, we would see high pressure builds in, low pressure sweeps through, then we're kind of in between weather systems, and eventually towards day 10, that high pressure builds in much stronger than the GFS, low pressure out towards the Atlantic and the Bay of Biscay, disintegrating. Look at the upper air temperatures, southerly winds appearing, nothing spectacular at this stage. Upper air temperatures are generally average to slightly above average. Really hot air still across southern France and parts of the Mediterranean. But the UK would be seeing temperatures widely in the low to maybe mid-20s. It would be very pleasant, no heat wave, nothing like that, but very pleasant, and would be very dry as well. Precipitation would be minimal across the UK, and if we look at the accumulated precipitation, you can see quite little across the south and the east. As I said, in the next few days, a lot of this rain is coming from the thunderstorms over the next couple of days, but beyond that, you see very little accumulates in the last sort of 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 days of this run. So looking pretty encouraging from the GEM, but you can see the disparity though. GFS much bigger with that low pressure, much weaker higher pressure, still bringing in warm hot air, even hotter than GEM because the isobars are tighter and the winds are stronger and the flow of the air mass is stronger. but it's more thundery and more unsettled. So again, roughly the same, but slightly different sizes in those high pressure, low pressure. Really does distinguish that air mass and how long any warmer, dry air will remain. If you look at the ECMWF, high pressure building in over the coming days, low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, then we're in between weather systems, and towards day 10, we see something similar to the GM. The low pressure is a bit stronger, but it's further out to our west. The high pressure is fairly large, but it's got kind of this pesky little low embedded over Denmark. And what it does here is kind of brings a bit of a northeasterly flow, and we're kind of in between under higher pressure. You'd expect there to be pretty minimal precipitation. You can see very little, some localised, very heavy rainfall around that, at the centre of the low. And you can see the accumulated precipitation here, nothing too crazy in the south and east. Again, majority of this rainfall here is from the thunderstorms over the next couple of days. And you can see the upper air temperatures are similar to the GFS, where we're not really anything spectacular, around average, slightly above, slightly below. But you can see very hot air is just 2 hours south. So very similar to the GM, but slightly different, and probably would have not as great prospects in the days beyond this. Now, if you look at the ensembles, you can see this well reflected. You can see big spike in upper air temperatures in the next 24 to 48 hours, then dropping towards average until probably early next week. And then you can see that we do see a rise towards the last 15 days or 10 days or so of August. You see some big spikes appearing here, and those are the sort of runs that do have those stronger southerly winds, but could be associated with more thundery activity, and that's why we're not seeing minimal precipitation. Others are more around average or slightly above average, and those are probably the drier, more high-pressure dominated runs. So whatever sort of scenario we're seeing at the moment, it does equate to generally warmer conditions than we've seen recently, and generally warmer than average. It's just whether it's more of a thundery, warmer spell, or whether we'll see some proper drier weather. Now, the 2 metre temperatures are definitely on the up in the longer term. You see some even getting towards a 30-degree mark, but the majority are in the low to mid-20s. The dew point isn't too high in the longer term, but there are some higher runs there indicating quite hot and humid air, but mostly around sort of the 11-12 degree mark, quite a bit lower than the sort of 16 or 17 degrees we could see at times the next couple of days. And the sea level pressure definitely on the upwards trend. Again, there are some lower pressure runs, but the majority are in the higher pressure end, so it is looking encouraging. But as I said, as we saw from the 3 main operational runs, there's a lot of disparity exactly how strong that low is to our west or our south, and how strong that high is to our north and our east. Finally, if we look at the ECMWF ensembles, you can see this, again, very similar. Our pressure temperature spiking, generally down towards average for the next sort of week or so. And then we see a trend upwards. Precipitation picks up, but that will be associated with more thundery runs, with more low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, mixing with that hotter air. But equally, there will be plenty of runs that are warm, upper air temperatures 10 to 12 degrees, with drier conditions. Again, the sea level pressure is fairly split. We've got some high pressure runs, some warm, dry, late summer days, but equally we've got some pretty miserable lower pressure runs as well. The only encouraging thing really, if we did see any lower pressure return, is it looks like the air mass will be fairly warm, which is a big change to what it has been recently. So yes, things are looking on the up as we do progress through the second half of August. It's been a really quite chilly start so far, but it should be corrected over the coming days as we do see warmer, humid conditions prevailing, and we'll see some really quite pleasant spells, especially in the east and the south over the next 5 days. Further northwards, we decent over the next 48 hours, but then things do start to deteriorate. Hopefully, though, we do see some more of this drier, warmer weather appear for the second half of August, which is looking really quite encouraging at this stage. Nothing spectacular, but encouraging compared to what we've had for the last month or so, where it has been pretty abysmal for what you'd expect for summer. So we'll have to see what happens, and of course I'll keep you updated on these runs, but it is definitely getting better, and hopefully we'll see something more in line with traditional summer weather as we head through August. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.